when I met Fran, we were joining an adult baseball league. And I knew Fran probably, this is our third week together, we probably knew each other. We had double headers every weekend. And we were at this one field and we were just crushing the team.
So we went to the bar after the baseball game and we all got drunk. There was probably 10 of us to start and they all kept whittling down until it ended up being just me and Neil. And Neil was afraid to drive home. So I offered to give him a ride. And I was drunk, I shouldn't have drove. We were driving down the road. Neil kind of hung out the window and he was holding on to the roof rack at about 50-ish miles an hour. He fell out of the car. And all I heard was like a thud on the side of the car because I was looking straight and I looked over and he wasn't there. I had no idea what happened. And I pulled over to the side of the road and I walked back and I saw him laying there on the side of the road with blood all over his face. And he was breathing. And out of a whole lot of things, out of fear, out of selfishness, out of pride, I left him there. I left him by the side of the road. I was more worried about myself getting in trouble for drinking and being involved. And then I went home. The next day, I got a phone call from the state police. And they said, "Do you know a guy named Neil Miller?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Do you know what happened to him last night?" I'm like, "No." I left him at the bar and I went home and they're like, "Well, we found him on the side of the road." And I told him I don't know anything about it. I was more afraid of my penalty than his well-being. The state police contacted me numerous times because they were investigating and I just kept lying to them.
I was in the hospital for 41 days, severe brain injury. And then I had rehab for about 6 months. I was messed up. I mean, I had to grow up again. I had to learn to brush my teeth. I always thought Fran tried to kill me. Yeah, he'll get what's coming to him. That's exactly what I always thought. He'll get what he deserves.
I was selfish. I didn't really care. I didn't love. I left my wife. I left my family. I left them destitute, barely able to get by. Up until I was saved, I never really loved anything in my life. I was my God. There was no remorse on who I hurt. It didn't matter as long as I was protected. It's embarrassing. It really is.
The whole reason I found Jesus was because I was an alcoholic and all I cared about was alcohol. I would slowly ways find a way to drink alcohol. And I had a good buddy that was always throwing Jesus at me. I remember in his kitchen him throwing him at me again, and I'm like, maybe you're right. And he was right. And I was actually born again in 2011. And there was a sermon in 2013 where it says you gotta forgive the person. And I knew where Fran worked because I delivered there, and I went into his office and first off I thanked him for calling the ambulance to pick me up because I thought he called the ambulance. I have no clue how an ambulance came and got me.
He did thank me for calling the ambulance, and I told him I didn't. I didn't call the ambulance. I didn't call the police. I didn't do anything except leave. And he sat in front of me and proclaimed Jesus, and I wasn't saved yet, and said, "I forgive you." And I didn't know what to say. I couldn't understand how somebody could forgive me. I wasn't saved yet. I didn't understand what love was, you know what I mean? I've never really received it. I didn't. But he sat in front of me and said he forgives me. And my selfish thought was, okay, we're good and clear on that now. Do you understand what I mean? And it's just, my selfish, nasty ideas were like, okay, I don't have to worry about that one. So I didn't get it. When I had left my wife, she went to LCBC, and every week she wrote the prayer request. Pray for my husband, pray for my husband, pray for Fran Lafferty, pray for Fran Lafferty. Jesus saved me, but through the people in that church praying for me week in, week out, while I'm out wrecking lives in sin, okay, God had enough of me hurting people. And he came down and he showed me a movie of everything I've done wrong in my life at one time. And that was crushing, completely crushing. And the next day, everything was different. Everything that I used to love, I now hated. And everything I used to hate, I now loved.
When I forgave him, that was probably 10 months before he walked in the starting point. It said, "Neil, do you know who I am?" And I did, but I didn't. But that hug cured everything. It did, man. It seemed like 2 days long, but it was worth it. It was so worth it. I thought the guy killed me, and I wanted evil to happen to him, and now I love the guy.
I mean, he brings us from death to life, not life to death. Ever since I've been saved, it's the only time I've ever really feel I've lived.